Well, hello all, Game Methuselah. I hope you guys are all enjoying the ongoing current role-playing adventure we are running worldwide. It's very interesting, and I know that people think one thing's going on, maybe something else is going on. It's very worrisome, but hopefully it'll all be resolved by January, and we'll be able to see who our new overlords are for the future. I tell people really the best thing to do when situations like this exist is game. Stay with your hobby, your friends, your loved ones, the things you enjoy, and keep doing them. I always hope that politics is transient and it will be here now and it'll be gone in the next cycle. And we'll see. I always look for improvement. I tend not to get too concerned about all the craziness, but that's what exists and you have to live with it. If you're out there protesting and stuff, I like that. I like the idea of protesting for something you believe in. I always protest to fight genetically modified organism food, GMO, get it labeled at least so people know. I have my own passions and like getting natural health legalized for everybody. Those are things that matter to me. But the one thing you want to do, because I've been protesting since the 70s for all kinds of different causes, make sure you just do stuff that you're not going to end up regretting in the future. And that's the only thing that worries me, is that sometimes, like now, with tension so high, you can lose friends, become estranged from your family and stuff, and that's just not good. I mean, it's best to just be able to stay civil and talk about stuff. Free commercial here for something I really love. Since I have to take care of myself because my body is, not getting any younger and things happen, and fortuitously for me, I am married to a druidic healer. That helps. That helps a lot. But I have been drinking probiotic drinks for many, many years. And I found this one about 4 or 5 years ago. It's called Wild Tonic. And the reason I recommend this is some of my friends I have gotten kombucha for think it tastes like something that, the dog might have dragged in. It doesn't. This is a lot tastier. It's made with honey. It's got really a beautiful bottle that somehow I feel I keep collecting because I'm going to make them into lamps at some point. I'm sure that won't happen, but I delude myself much. But it's a good product, and probiotic drinks are really good for you. This one's substantially more palatable. It's also substantially more expensive than most, but it's the cost of basically like a mocha or some kind of blended drink at a coffee house or a boba tea. But it's really good. It's substantially better for you health-wise. Things to look into. But anyway, enough of that. Back to the gaming, which, as I say, is the real important thing in life. I want to do something quick, and I had an interesting occurrence in one of my games recently, and I wanted to bring it up, and I can be pondering it because it comes out, I think, for a video that would be interesting for you, especially if you play modules, because I'm always looking for people who play modules to expand their game and then lead onto another adventure, or not, just maybe lead into something that's just different. I put a lot of bad things into games, things that are challenging to the players on a moral level. And the reason I do that is I want the games to feel realistic. I want people to, at some point realize they're no longer murder hobos. They are really out there trying to be the heroes that are going to change the world for the great and good. And that's what I think makes role-playing such a fabulous game over and above everything else. I love games. I play tons and tons of games. I am a game coochie boy. I mean, you name it, I play it. And that's miniature games, board games, card games, computer games. If there's a game, dice games, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I enjoy playing it. But role-playing is always stuck big with me because of that concept that you can have an ordinary life like I do, and you can then suddenly, when you are your hero, step up and feel like you are making a difference in the world. But it's the feeling that you've actually accomplished and done something that is dramatic and heroic. There's a lot of bad things that go on in every environment, and in any sort of medieval or fantasy environment, it's even more so. Recently, in my last Friday night game, when I was DM, we had a situation where the party ran into a very large lair of ghouls. A large battle ensued. It was really very dramatic and cool, and the fight was good and really enjoyable. But as they pushed farther into the lair, where they found the ghouls' treasure and all the bones of the dead that they'd eaten and all these horrible things, they found a young girl. The young girl had all her extremities eaten off. They were keeping her alive so they could devour her, because that way there would be lots of blood, and the meat would be warm. And, ghouls, not the most social and friendly individuals. This is what they wanted. It was really horrible. Now, one of the characters goes up to her, assuming she must be dead, and she looks up and says, "Please help me." Now, I don't do this. I don't exaggerate it when I'm running a game. It's also matter of fact, and that's usually the best way to do it, because you don't want to make it sound like a melodrama that everyone can feel out, well, what are we going to do? In most cases like this, I expect that they're going to put her out of her misery, maybe, do whatever they can. And maybe the clerics can step up and maybe do something if they're a higher level, but they're relatively low level. Their cleric, though powerful, is nowhere near capable of doing anything to really help this girl other than just sort of suspend her so that they can move her somewhere else. And that's what happened. And I thought that was something I didn't necessarily expect. This was the youngest player in our group. He's running the cleric. He has been playing role-playing games for a long time. His father's the other DM, so he's been into it, I think, maybe not by choice always, but he's always there, and he's a very good player. He said, "Look, we're going. Doesn't care what happens. We're stopping what we're doing now in this underground. We are taking her out and going to get her help." Which I thought was a great step up, that great moral change when you look at it and you can run your character and say, my character is going to do X. And in this case, like with paladins and clerics, I'm usually very dogmatic in the fact that they're going to do whatever they believe is right, even if it causes their death. Now, in this case, there was no death risk involved because they had already vanquished the foes, but he immediately said the adventure ends. No more treasure, no more whatever. We're going to do this. And they take her out and they go back to the dwarven lair where they started their adventure and went to their cleric and said, "Look, what can we do?" And the cleric says, "This is still all above my capabilities. I don't know what to do." But the players now are changing the dynamic of my game. And this is what I always want. I always want them to step up and make the game their own, and thusly make the dynamic of the game their own. So the young man who's running the cleric goes, "Well, look, we can take him to Fanlin. Fanlin is where this cleric," and he names some name, Flargan, the Slurgan Far, I don't remember what the name is. But I said, "Who is he?" I thought he was a large NPC. He goes, "No, he's one of our player characters that had gotten up to 15th or 16th level in the game, and he's part of the religious order that my cleric is from. We take them there. Even if he can't help her, he can basically go to his patriarch and hopefully convince them to do some benefit for it." So they now decide to go on this overland quest to get to the city far away to get this girl some way of helping her and maybe making her life something more than the horror it is right now. Now, I'm really impressed by this. I'm impressed when people go the extra mile. So the adventure goes on, they have some encounters and whatever, and they eventually get their way to Fanlin. And they find the cleric. He says, "Okay, I'm not sure my powers are up to this," but they go to get the patriarch, and they're able to do a restoration, major restoration, and some other things on this girl to basically make her whole again. Maybe not mentally, but surely physically. And then now they're considering what they're going to do and how they're going to find her family and whatnot, and reunite her, if possible, with her people. Now, the great thing about this was it gives me the opportunity of doing what I love to do as a DM. And I always do this. In all situations where players step up and do something more dramatic, more role-playing, not just open the door, throw in the fireball, hack on down the monsters, collect the treasure, and move on. They start to make the game their own. They start to make it a campaign. The characters become bonded in their feel for each other that we are doing the right thing. Unless they're evil characters, in which case they want to be bonded in what we're doing the wrong thing. But hey, it's just me. Do what you want. But in doing this, I hand out very amounts of experience points. I gave everybody in the group 100 XP, except I said, not you, not the cleric. And he kind of and I said, you get 500 XP. And now what does is it sets up a whole series of adventures for me on what they're going to do with the girl. Now, course, I'm not going to let this just lie. It's just she's some peasant girl and they give her back to the farmer and yay, everything's happy. No, there's going to have to be something more dramatic involved in here, more interesting, more dragged out. And that's how all your adventures can start and evolve. Matt just did a nice video I was watching about, hot starting a campaign or hot starting an adventure as opposed to a slow burn, and different terminologies on how you build your own game. And that's what you want. You want the game to get built onto and built onto and built onto. And those things make the game change from something that people enjoy and they play it for a year or so, and then after a while it's just D&D. I've known so many people in my life who look at me and when they talk to me and they said, "You play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, you play now?" I said, "Yes." And you played in the 70s? And I said, "Yes." And I've played all the way through. And I've played 20 other game systems in the meantime, not to mention Spacefaring and Gothic and Cthulhuoid and all the other things that are out there. A myriad of types of experiences you can have. Tekkamil, of course, but that's again fantasy role-playing. They're amazed. They say, "Well, yeah, I kind of played and it was really fun for like 6 months, but then it got kind of boring." And I said, "Well, this is why." And I try to always explain this, but it's a very hard thing to get over to people where you are creating a story, and that cooperative storytelling is the important part of the game. The rules, they don't matter. The level of your characters, they don't matter. When you get together and play and how often, none of that matters. What matters is the greatness of the opportunities for you to have shared experiences with your friends, and they'll become your real friends. And that's what makes the game great. But more importantly, that's what allows you to have an experience that's way and above what most role-playing games are going to be. If you don't know the people, if you don't care about the people, if you don't know their characters, whatever, you're not going to have the kind of experience you're going to have if you do more. And that's why I think as a DM, you need to make the games more well-rounded so that sometimes there's great things and sometimes there's really terrible things. And that's what makes the game something that you'll stay with for decade after decade after decade, that you'll gladly paint miniatures or buy miniatures or collect dungeon tiles or great maps and present something that is really, really unique. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Always, always, always throw some sort of bad twist in there, something that the players have to do. Sometimes, it's not necessarily what you expect them to do. Sometimes they are substantially crueler than you expected them to be. That's okay. Never judge and never bring it up. And never mention it. Whatever they do is what their characters do. This is their journey. And as a game master, your idea is to make the game experience excellent and something is fulfilling and perceptively realistic. And that's what is important. Now, again, there's millions of ways to do this. And a lot of players out there look at them and they throw up their shoulders and they say, "Look, I'm new at this. I don't understand what to do." But there's things out there that can always help you. And something I pulled out of my great collection of crap was something from 3rd edition. And this is from Forgotten Realms. It's the Lost Empires of Faerun. And what is really neat about this is it has a lot of random generators on things you can make. If you don't have any idea for an adventure, you roll a D20 and it gives you something. Ancient cultists want to dig up some ancient god from the Forgotten Eras. But the color in this book is fabulous. Even though it's 3rd edition, which I wouldn't play if you put a gun to my head, it's not stale. It's totally applicable to both 4th edition, which is what we're playing, and 5th edition, which I think most of you are playing, because you're playing in Forgotten Realms. So all of this stuff is going to be on there. Now, I was going to get on there and say, "Hey, go on eBay and buy one of these," because I'm sure that 3rd edition, this thing's, 16, 18 years old. You'll be able to get it for pennies on the dollar. Well, sorry to say that's not so. These things are going for about $60 or $70 on eBay. A lot of things are, but that's the sway in popularity in things. Take it from so many things. I get things from movies. Sometimes you can steal ideas from a modern movie and just make it into a medieval setting and alike. Sometimes there's just great color in all the things out there and things you enjoy. But again, the thing to do as a DM is always remember, put out the bad stuff, with the good stuff. And then reward the players, whether they do what you expected or not. If they do what you expected, you can really be generous like I was, because I was impressed that someone of the youthful nature would step up, look at the morality of his character, and realize I am going to role play this character to the hilt and make him something truly unique in the game, because now I understand exactly what he is. He is a true, lawful, good hero, and that is what I wanted to see. Now, if he had done something entirely different, I obviously wouldn't have been disappointed, but doing something now sets the stage for me to want to do more things. And again, when you're a player, your main goal that you don't know about is you want to keep making the game as fun as you possibly can for the game master, because you realize most of the time the game master has work, and then he has to be a storyteller and a creator of miniatures and all the other things that the DMs end up having to do. And it's hard to stay highly motivated, but it makes the game enjoyable, and that's the thing to do. Hey, I do have one question for you people who are in the know. I monetized my videos over a year ago, and I cannot figure how to get paid from this monetization. I filled it out like once, and it says we're going to send you this little piece of snail mail, and then when you get that, you contact us with some information on it, and then we'll activate it in whatever bank account you're going to use. The snail mail never arrived, so I did it again, and of course, went through the whole thing. We're going to send you this piece of snail mail. When it does, it still never arrived. So I'm accumulating coffee money in my account. And if anybody out there knows, so I've contacted them and sent them, messages directly, and please have someone contact me. Well, of course, you can imagine no one has contacted me. So if anybody knows a direct way to get a hold of these people and get them to at least tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can get this clicked up, let me know. If you don't know, don't worry about it. But anyhow, I wanted you to enjoy what's going on in your life, not the bad things, but find a way to get in there and keep gaming, even if it's Roll D20 or whatever, or however you feel comfortable in being involved in the hobby, do so and keep it up. Because, as you know, fight me devils fight, for I hate peace, and game on.